Everyone in the building stopped moving the moment Mr. Walter Sterling opened the executive conference room door and saw the janitor sitting in the CEO's chair. The room fell silent. Employees froze with coffee cups in their hands. Assistants stopped typing. Even the security guards near the hallway turned around to watch what would happen next. Marcus Hill slowly stood up from the leather chair, embarrassed, holding the cleaning cloth he had been using moments earlier. I was just cleaning the office, sir, Marcus explained quietly. But Walter Sterling, the powerful CEO of Sterling Technologies, looked furious. You think this is funny? He snapped loudly. A janitor sitting in my chair. Several executives nearby laughed under their breath. Marcus lowered his eyes immediately. I'm sorry, sir. But Walter wasn't finished. No, the CEO said coldly. People like you forget their place too easily. The hallway became painfully quiet. Marcus felt dozens of eyes staring at him. His face burned with humiliation. What nobody inside that building knew was that less than 24 hours later, the same poor janitor they mocked would legally become the owner of the entire company. Before we continue, tell us in the comments where you're watching from, and if stories like this touch your heart, don't forget to subscribe and become part of our family. Marcus Hill had worked as a janitor inside Sterling Technologies for nearly 11 years. Every morning, he arrived before sunrise. Every night, he was the last person to leave. Most employees barely noticed him. To them, he was invisible. Just a quiet man pushing a cleaning cart through endless hallways while executives discussed million-dollar deals above his head. But Marcus carried a pain none of them understood. 3 years earlier, his wife Elena had died after a long battle with cancer, leaving him alone to raise their 8-year-old daughter Lily. Since then, Marcus lived every single day exhausted. He cleaned office floors during the night and worked extra maintenance jobs during weekends just to keep food on the table. Sometimes he skipped meals so Lily could eat properly at school. But despite everything, Marcus never complained. Every evening, he walked Lily home from school carrying her backpack while pretending life was okay. And every night before bed, he promised her the same thing. One day things will get better. Even when he no longer believed it himself. The morning Marcus was humiliated happened to be Lily's birthday. Inside his locker was a tiny pink bicycle ribbon he had bought with his last few dollars. Not the bicycle itself. Just the ribbon. Because Marcus planned to surprise Lily later after secretly making monthly payments on a second-hand bike from a local repair shop. He wanted his daughter to feel special. Even if the world treated him like he was nothing. Earlier that afternoon, Marcus had entered the CEO's office to clean after an important investor meeting. The office was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city skyline. The leather chair behind the desk looked almost unreal. Marcus carefully wiped the desk before sitting down for only a few seconds to rest his aching back. That was the exact moment Walter Sterling walked in. Unfortunately for Marcus, several senior executives followed behind him. The humiliation became entertainment. Look at this, one executive laughed. The janitor thinks he's CEO now. Another employee pulled out a phone and secretly recorded the moment. Marcus immediately stood up. I'm sorry, he repeated softly. But Walter Sterling looked disgusted. You people become comfortable too quickly, he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Marcus felt his chest tighten. You people. Then came the words that destroyed him. You're fired. The hallway exploded into whispers. Marcus stood frozen. 11 years of loyalty ended in less than 30 seconds. Security escorted him downstairs while employees watched in silence. Nobody defended him. Nobody spoke. Outside the building, Marcus sat alone on a bench holding his small lunch bag while staring at the rain falling across the parking lot. Inside the bag was Lily's birthday card. For the first time in years, Marcus didn't know how he would pay rent. But what hurt him most wasn't losing the job. It was imagining the disappointment on Lily's face if he failed her too. That evening, Marcus still smiled when he walked through the apartment door. Lily ran into his arms immediately. "Daddy! Did you get off work early?" Marcus forced himself to smile. "Something like that." Then he handed her the ribbon. Lily's eyes lit up anyway. "It's beautiful." Marcus turned away quickly so she wouldn't see the tears in his eyes. Over the next few weeks, life became brutal. Bills piled up. Electricity notices appeared on the apartment door. Marcus started doing odd jobs around the neighborhood for cash. Fixing fences. Cleaning garages. Repairing old furniture. Still, he remained kind to everyone. An elderly woman once offered him extra money after he repaired her broken porch steps. Marcus refused. "You already paid enough, ma'am." Word slowly spread around the neighborhood about the humble widower who helped people even while struggling himself. Then one rainy evening, everything changed. Marcus was helping organize chairs inside a small community center when an older man quietly approached him. The stranger wore a simple gray coat and carried an old cane. "You work harder than most executives I know," the man said calmly. Marcus smiled politely. "Hard work doesn't scare me, sir." The old man introduced himself as Arthur Bennett. Marcus had no idea Arthur Bennett was one of the original founders of Sterling Technologies. Years earlier, Arthur had stepped away from the company after illness forced his retirement. But recently, he had begun secretly investigating reports of corruption and greed inside the corporation he once built. That investigation eventually led him to Marcus. Arthur spent weeks quietly observing him. He watched how Marcus treated people. How he stayed honest despite poverty. How children in the neighborhood trusted him instantly. How he never spoke bitterly about the company that humiliated him. Then Arthur discovered something shocking. Marcus had not been fired because of the chair. Walter Sterling had already been searching for excuses to remove long-time lower-level employees before a massive illegal financial restructuring plan. Several workers were going to lose pensions while executives secretly pocketed millions. Marcus simply became the perfect public target. Arthur was horrified. The company he built on integrity had become poisoned by greed. And then fate intervened. Late one night, Arthur Bennett suffered a medical emergency. Marcus happened to find him collapsed outside the community center parking lot. Without hesitation, Marcus carried the elderly man through the rain and stayed beside him at the hospital until morning. Even after discovering Arthur was wealthy, Marcus never asked for money. Never asked for favors. Never asked for anything. That single act changed everything. The next morning, Walter Sterling arrived at company headquarters expecting another normal workday. Instead, every board member sat silently inside the conference room. Lawyers filled the corners. Arthur Bennett sat calmly at the head of the table. Walter looked confused. "Arthur? What is this?" The old man slid several documents across the table. "I'm taking back my company." Walter's face went pale. Overnight, Arthur had used emergency shareholder authority to remove multiple executives involved in the corruption scheme, including Walter Sterling himself. But the real shock came seconds later. Arthur slowly stood up and looked toward the conference room doors. "Please come in, Marcus." The doors opened. And every executive in the room froze. Marcus walked inside wearing his same old gray janitor uniform. Some employees nearly stopped breathing. Walter Sterling stared in disbelief. Arthur smiled gently. "This man," he said firmly, "understands leadership better than anyone in this building." Marcus looked overwhelmed. Arthur continued. Effective immediately, Marcus Hill becomes majority inheritor and acting owner of Sterling Technologies. The room exploded into shocked whispers. Walter Sterling slammed his hands on the table. "This is insane." But Arthur calmly replied. "No. What's insane is that you mistook humility for weakness. Marcus stood speechless. He had entered the building hundreds of times through the service entrance. Now executives stood as he walked past them. The same employees who once ignored him suddenly lowered their eyes in shame. Walter Sterling looked completely broken. For a moment, Marcus could have humiliated him back. Could have insulted him. Could have taken revenge. But he didn't. Instead, Marcus simply said, "A company should never forget the people who clean its floors, because they're the same people holding it together." The room fell silent again. Even Arthur Bennett smiled proudly. That evening, Marcus left the building early. For the first time in years. He drove to the small repair shop across town and finally picked up the bicycle he had been secretly paying for. When he arrived home, Lily gasped the moment she saw it. "Daddy, is this really mine?" Marcus nodded quietly. Lily threw her arms around him tightly. And as Marcus held his daughter close, he realized something important. Sometimes life humiliates good people before revealing why they were meant for something greater all along.